and welcome back to another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. Whether you're outside grilling, maybe you're outside mowing the lawn, or maybe it's too cold to be mowing the lawn, maybe you're throwing down some ice smell. I don't know what time of year it is if this is coming out, but it's fall right now, hence the pumpkins in the background. So whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jay, and today I have a very special guest who is making a significant impact in the podcasting community and has made. Joining us is Kris, the creator of Podtastic Audio. Kris initially co-hosted the Kris and Christine show, which gained popularity and led to fellow podcasters to seek his advice on audio recording and production, realizing the need to help indie podcasters improve their audio quality without an entire production team. He created Podtastic Audio. On his show, Kris offers practical tips, expert insights, and behind-the-scenes looks into professional podcast production. He's passionate about helping podcasters create amazing audio content that delivers real value to their audience. Beyond podcasting, Kris is a dedicated father who's been through significant life challenges, including a difficult divorce. Just recently had ear surgery to remove some ear stuff going on, ear cancer. And he's here to share his journey with us today. So grab a seat, grab a juice box, grab a snack, relax, and let's welcome Kris to the show.
Well,
welcome, Kris.
Thanks, Jake. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate this. Thank you. It's been a wonderful Tuesday evening as we're here right now. So I think it's Tuesday. Today's Tuesday? You lose track of time. Yeah, you lose track of time when I've been off work because I was out for cancer surgery. And I just been kind of on the mend right now in my left ear. So I'm dealing with that. That was not fun. The procedure removing it is not fun. When you remove cancer, really you just got to like get it out and cut it out. And it's surgically removing sections of your skin until they discover there's no more cancer left. You got it all. And which is like a whole day procedure, by the way. That hurt like hell. And then they realized now you need to go in for reconstructive surgery to fix the big hole we just dug. It's like, imagine being in the backyard and you're just digging a big hole in your backyard and you're digging up like something and you realize, oh, I got a big hole now in my backyard. I got to like fill it with something now. So you get dirt to fill it. The problem is there's no like skin filler store. So what they got to do is get skin from you to patch over the hole they dug. So they took skin out of my backside of my ear, well, kind of my neck area, and cut it out and put it in my ear to replace the skin they moved. So that's why I've got like stitches and everything on my left ear, backside, front side, in the middle, and it feels like kind of like I'm Frankenstein a little bit, where I got like stitches all over and stuff. But I'm here and I love podcasting and I love doing this. And thanks again for having me on, man.
Of course, man. And even ear cancer couldn't keep you off the microphone and keep you away from it. So that shows dedication, shows a love of the craft, and just dedication overall. So I'm super excited for you being here. I just want to shout out that awesome opening beat that you heard overlaid with the intro today. That is straight from the Podbeat app. If you haven't heard of the Podbeat app, they're great friends of the podcast. You can go back and listen to that episode that I did with them. Episode 140 something. I think you can look in the podcast. Just search Young Dad Podcast Podbeat app. It'll turn up.
Or you could just leave a link to it in the show notes. That's an easy way to do it too.
I'll do that too. It'll be linked in the show notes if you want to check that out. And they're fantastic, great couple. You can download the Podbeat app for free. You can turn any podcast or any audiobook into a musical experience with the Podbeat app. You can do it for free. They have some awesome paid beats as well. They're fantastic. So enough of all that. We're gonna jump right into it here. But before I do that, just want to do one more thing here, just really quick. I just want to invite all the listeners listening today to go ahead and head over to Patreon. Young Dad Podcast is now on Patreon. Try to grow over there a little bit by offering some really awesome content, early access. If you do join and you're a part of the community over there, you could join in on every recording live as an audience member, which I think is super cool, super unique to the Young Dad Podcast. So this recording or future recordings, if you like them, you can go over there to Patreon. You can become a patron. And you can join for as little as $1 a month or $2 per month. That's it. Just help support the podcast, just to keep it going, help it reach new heights. So speaking of heights, Kris, we're gonna start with a big one here. With a big question here. What is a hill that you're willing to die on when it comes to podcasting or parenting?
Okay, let's start with the easy one: podcasting. All right. So it's funny, just tonight, literally, I'm on social media and I'm on Threads tonight, and another fellow podcaster in the podcasting community who does a show about podcasting and that kind of stuff. And he was saying something. It's kind of like a joke kind of meme post. He posted something along the lines of something to do with how podcasters assume that if they get big name guests on their show, that it will make their show uber popular, like the next biggest thing. If they only got the big name, if I only got that name on my show, if I only got that person on my show, and I've been hearing that a lot, and I've been hearing that from other podcasters, other content creators for years now, and I think we kind of fall into this trap thinking that if we only had the biggest name in podcasting, biggest name in the world on our show, then our show too will all of a sudden just ride that wave of fame with these big guests. But the problem with having a guest on your show, or any guest, especially even a bigger one, is that first off, any guest that comes on your show, really, they come on your show for one purpose only. And that is to get in front of your audience. And make sure that you get some of your audience to become part of their audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a numbers game. Now, even if you have a smaller audience, and you say a big name person coming on your show, and let's just say that episode does do fairly well numbers wise, it does get pretty popular because you got, I can't think of a big celebrity, it's on your show, whatever. And that person comes on your show, that episode might do fairly well, but history has always proven that the numbers might go up for that episode, but they start to fall back down to normal operating levels where you were before you had the guest on your show. So people thinking that, I got all these downloads for this one guest to have on the show. That's great. That's great for that episode. That's great for that one show. But do you want your show to be a one-hit wonder? Or do you want your show? I mean, think of all one-hit wonder bands that are bands that are out there that have one song and they're done. It's a one hit, whoop-de-doo, then they're done. People, you want your audience to stick around and tune in for the next episode and the next episode. So having big name guests on your show, it's so overrated, and it should not be like, oh my gosh, this is my silver bullet to success. This is going to be my ticket to fame. This is my one-stop shop. If I only get this one person, it's going to be amazing, and all I need is them on my show. And I've heard podcasters, I get arguments with them. They was saying oh my gosh, I got so-and-so on the show coming up. All super excited. Like they think they won the lottery or something. And I'm saying well, first I'd be like, wait, who is that person? I've never heard of them. And they're like, oh, come on. Come on, me. I've never heard of this person. I really haven't heard of them. And so, baby, you telling me the name of the person, just the name alone, is not going to get me to push play. If I've never heard of them, and I don't care who they are, if they were an actor in some show, if you're going to put them on your show and they're part of your episode or whatever, maybe instead of just saying so-and-so actor, should say the star of this show, or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah,
something
like they do on TV.
Right. Something that the general listener, because every listener of your show may not know every guest you bring on. In fact, they probably don't. So you have to kind of tell the audience, hey, I'm bringing on this person who has done this and this and this, and this is why you should listen. If you can't package all that together and show the audience or the potential audience, this is why you need to listen to this episode. This is who I have on. This is why they're here. Why would they care? I think the big takeaway with podcasting and having guests or any kind or whatever is that people miss the big picture, which is what is in it for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't answer that question, because, I'm bringing on the big name so-and-so has been on this TV show. Okay, great. What is that? And what does the audience get out of that? They came in to hear me talk to so-and-so. Okay, if so-and-so's as big as you say they are, there's a good chance they've been on many, many different shows. Not just yours, but I probably maybe even TV, maybe even real news, or maybe ET and Access Hollywood. Do you think that they have better gear and equipment and staff and editing skills than you do? Maybe they do. So, I mean,
they definitely have the money to buy them, if nothing else.
Right. So you're trying to compete directly with them. Okay. And there's a chance when you interview big people too, there's a chance that they may only give you like simple, like yes or no, like tidbits. And you want to ask them about this affair they just had. It was just, breaking story or something that happened in the news. Like, we were just arrested like last week for DUI. Can you tell me what happened? I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about it. This interview's over. And then he leaves. You know what I mean? Like good luck getting out of them.
Right.
Flipping the script on to parenting. One thing about parenting I would say is that so many things. Parenting is, it's not as easy as people think it is, and until you actually are like having to deal with a kid, whether it's your kid or somebody else's kid, on their worst day.
Yeah.
In a public place. Kid, worst day, you by yourself with no other helping hands in a public place on the kid's absolute worst day. Good luck. Have fun with that. I don't care who you are. I mean, it's very stressful. I mean, we've all been there as a parent. I've been there as a parent, and I have literally walked out of a restaurant where they have sat us down, and my son was like throwing a big fit about something. I don't know what he was doing, and and we were waiting for everybody else to gather and get into the room, get into the restaurant, and I just picked him up and said, you know what? We're out of here. We're leaving. We're just gonna go somewhere else or whatever and call it a day. And I remember doing that because I just like, I'm not dealing with, like, he was screaming. He was like off. I don't know what his deal was that day. I don't remember if we switched things or did something. I don't know what the deal was, but it was at a level of embarrassment for me where I was not going to be that person where I just wanted to I think for me, it's about embarrassing or making other people uncomfortable in the situation, like, I don't like to inconvenience other people. You know, that jerk that's like at the grocery store that parks their freaking cart in the middle of the freaking aisle and you're trying to get by, but you can't. And they're just like, oblivious of anybody else around them. And you're trying to do your thing. So it's like that. That's stuff I do not want to do. And having kids that are crazy and are acting up and you're in the middle, ruining everybody else's day. I want to make sure that does not happen. And I think that a lot of parents probably do too. They want to make sure it doesn't happen. But sometimes you're put in situations like maybe on an airplane or something like that, where you're kind of stuck with the crying baby and, everyone's kind of like, giving you the stink eye because you're like, shut the baby up. And why are you bringing a baby on a plane? Oh, maybe because I got to get somewhere. I mean, that's why, you know what I mean? I can't ship the baby. You got to go with us.
Right.
So, things like that. I get that. So I have empathy for moms, single moms that I've seen that have been in situations like that where they've been stuck, in a situation where you can see the frustration on my mom's face, and she's like, has the kids, and she may have multiple kids, and one's acting up and one's crying, and she's trying to keep it all together, and she's not trying to like get too out of hand and too crazy in a public place. And another thing too, man, with that is that people judge a lot by what you do in a public place. And I think, especially as a dad, you almost feel like there's not much you really can do. Like, I remember, like, when I was growing up, you get a spanking and things like that. Spanking was the thing you would do. But now, my gosh, if you're caught spanking your kid in public, I mean, you get like arrested, I think, or something for that, So,
no, yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So you're kind of stuck there. Like, what do you do? Like, you're trying to make sure you're kind of calm the kid, but you're also trying to make sure that, everyone's like calm down around you. You're not like get pitchforks and stuff and trying to, So it's a very, very tricky situation to be in, is when you're in a public place with a kid on their worst day.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that, so I want to hit on both of those. Let's see. What do I want to hit on first? So I recently started getting on Reddit. It has been great for my mental health. Reddit is so fun. But I was in this parenting one, and it's kind of exactly what you're saying here. And then I'll touch on that. So where is it? Because it was like the first day I was on Reddit, and I've used ChatGPT for a lot of responses on Reddit. I can't find it now. Nope, not that one. Not that one.
Yeah, I was on Reddit for a while too, but I got so many, like, I either got kicked out or I got like one of my messages got flagged, and I was trying to help out, and I was like, you know what? If this is the way Reddit's going to be, I don't need it. I don't need this. So I just left. I said, peace out.
Yeah, no, so basically what the parenting thing was what's like the thing it was like the parenting subreddit, but it was like, what's the thing that you like what's a parenting thing that that no one else really does, but you definitely do that you still think needs to be part of parenting? Uh, so like anti-gentle parenting kind of was the theme of the thread, more or less. And I literally put on there like you need to be able to publicly embarrass your kids. Like there's nothing wrong with public humiliation and publicly embarrassing them.
Well,
If
if
you
the
need
kids
to
are
spank
at a
them or
certain
just
age, they might not even. If the kids at a certain age, they might not even realize that. As they get older, they may understand embarrassment, but when they're younger, I mean, they'll. I mean, we're talking like 2 years old, 2 to 3 years old. I mean, they're probably like, I don't care. We'll run down the street in diapers. They wouldn't care. You
yeah,
know.
but like let's say if you're at the store, right? And your kid's throwing a fit and you already put like the candy in the cart, right?
Oh, you take it away from them?
And
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, then you take it away, you just let them cry and throw their fit. And you let them kind of go through that experience. And they're going through that experience and they're just like upset and they get to just be upset in public and it's fine. And or if you need to discipline them in public or if you need to spank them in public. I, I live in Washington State. In Washington State, there is nothing wrong with spanking. You can discipline your child as you see fit. You can't use a closed fist. You can't use objects. You can't leave bruises, kind of thing.
Well,
I
that's
know
kind
the
of
law.
obvious. I
Yeah,
think.
I know this law very specifically for multiple reasons. I'm a mandated reporter with my 9 to 5. I work in mental health. I'm a mental clinician. I provide direct services to youth and families. And so I know this law very well on the stipulations around it and whatnot and what would be reporting. I've had to do it many times. And so it's okay to discipline your kid in public. Like there's nothing wrong with it because if we go and we don't discipline them in the moment and then we try to do a delayed discipline or a delayed
Right.
consequence,
Right.
it doesn't always work. And so sometimes, yeah, you have to let them, you know, throw their fit, throw their fit in the cart, yell, scream, whatnot. You kind of have to put your head down. I don't know how many times I had to do that when I was single, and I just had to let the fit be thrown. And it's just like whatever. Like you can look at me, you can judge me. That's fine. I don't really care. But my kid's not getting that thing they wanted, or I will put this back and I will make a small scene of it and put it back on the shelf and maybe slam it down and raise my voice at them. And that's fine to me. Like, if because I'm going to discipline my child, they're going to know that they're not going to get away with what they're trying to do in the store or wherever we're at, and that is unacceptable behavior. And that's very clear and concise for them. So that's kind of like my take on that. I think it's totally okay to discipline like in public. Spanking, yeah, you may get some heat for that, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's up to
I think
everybody.
especially as a dad, I think well, moms might too, but I mean, it seems like dads get more heat because I think society is always like, if you think about growing up and remember some of those movies from like the 80s or whatever, even was it after school specials where like the
Hmm.
kid came to school with the bruises on his eye and he was like embarrassed and the teacher's like, what happened, all this, and it turns out the dad or like the stepdad was the one that hit him or whatever
Oh,
in the show,
yeah,
you know what I mean, or whatever. But anybody, it doesn't have to
but it
be a
was never the
stepdad.
mom. But it was never the
That's what I'm
mom.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like it was always the dad. So when you see a mom spanking a kid in public, it's probably more like, oh, okay. But dad does it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's called red, let's call the police. So I just think that dads get a little more well, when it comes to that anyways, they get a little more punishment, I guess, a little more.
Yeah, way more heat. Way more heat from
Yeah,
the fire, the public fire. Yeah, 100%.
right.
And I think it's interesting what you said with like the guest thing too. To jump into that part of it too, because I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about that too. Because I've reached out and I've tried to land like some big names. Like I've reached out to The Rock and Mookie Betts and stuff like that. I realized like I'm just wasting my time. Like I'm literally just wasting my time. Like A, they're never gonna read it. B, they're never gonna respond, or the likelihood is like a 1% that they're gonna read it, they're gonna respond, they're gonna come on the podcast. Really, but what is that really gonna do for me? Is it really gonna help my audience grow? Like maybe yeah, I'll gain like a couple dozen listeners. That's cool, you know.
If it's only if something different is said on your show that's never been said before. That'll
Yeah,
become newsworthy. That'll get TMZ will pick that up. The new, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of stuff gets picked up and spreads like wildfire, right? If they said the exact same thing that they said in the last 1,000 episodes shows before your show in the same way, there's a chance it's not going to spread quite the. What you're trying to do when you get a big name is you really want that thing to kind of spread and take off. And the only way for that to happen is if they say something that is so crazy that like people are sharing it and then they're sharing and they're sharing because oh my gosh, Jay had Michael Jordan on his show and Michael Jordan said this crazy thing or whatever. So that clip gets taken.
He confirmed that Anthony Edwards is his son. We all know it. MJ, stop playing with us. Anthony Edwards is your son. He looks just like you. He plays just like you. He's a super freak. He's great at basketball. You were in the same area when he was born, having reckless, wild sex with women. Like, come on. MJ, Ant's your son. We all know it. Confirm the rumors, okay? End of story.
There you go. Something like that. I'm saying, like, if you have that and you have that on your show and you have a whole thing about it and you even like somehow do all kinds of teasers based around it when you create an episode like that, that kind of stuff helps. It helps, but it's not like the main thing.
Yeah, it's like, how do you retain them? Like, because they literally came for that one. Yeah, like they came for that one person, for that one thing. So now you have other guests on, and now maybe, it goes from Michael Jordan to LeBron to Ja Morant, and, bounces around professional athletes, things like that,
Right, and a lot of those big ones are, when they get those big ones, though, they're usually like the big podcasts that I've seen where they do the interviews like that and stuff. They're usually in studio. They're usually in the same space, in a location that they fly. Then they're flown in. They are set up in a hotel. They are treated like the first class, and they're paid, and they're paid to be there. So for them to do it, they probably make a decent amount of money to do that. Us small indie podcasters, we can't afford to do that. We can't afford to we couldn't even afford to do a Zoom chat with them if they're going to charge us to do that. So
100%. That's something I always worry about too. I always worry, like when I reach out to these and I start to get a little bit more higher profile, or I start to get doctors and lawyers and mental health clinicians and people with letters by their names and different prefixes and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, someone's going to ask me how much I'm going to pay them for this. And that's going to be an awkward conversation. Luckily, a lot of people are really kind when it comes to doing podcasts. If they see like the value, if they like your content, if it's like up your alley and they're up their alley, kind of what they're talking about and stuff like that. And it's really like important about the connection stuff, like it's about establishing that connection. Like, I feel like I made that mistake a lot where I wouldn't pre-connect with a lot of people. Like I wouldn't have a conversation through messages, or I wouldn't maybe have a Zoom call,
like a pre-interview, you mean? Like a pre-interview?
Just like a pre-conversation kind of thing.
It's always good to do a pre-interview of some kind. That's what I like to do when I have interview. I don't usually do a lot of pre-interviews because of my schedule the way it is. But what I do is that I have the hour blocked for the interview, but then I might spend the first half hour of that getting to know them and kind of going over everything and kind of like getting everything kind of warmed up. I've been on some shows where literally I log in and they're already like rolling and going. And I'm like, are we going to like work? Nope. And they kind of already go. So I have to kind of like prepare for that and jump in. So
it's like, are you going to warm me up first, or going to take me to dinner? Or you know,
we're
going to wine and dine me a little bit kind of thing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, you can't go dry here. Like, let's.
Right. That's what they do. Some people do, because I think a lot of them sometimes will do live streaming. And I knew, too, is like, as a podcast host, being guest, it's always best to at least warm up the guest a little bit, whether it's a pre-interview or a chat or maybe a little chit chat before you press record, and also explain to them like I asked you before we went live, like, hey, what are we discussing today? What do you want out of this episode? Like, give them kind of like a basic rough draft of what the episode is going to be about, or at least the interview is going to be about. And that way they're best prepared. One thing I would not do, I know some people love doing this, is I would not like pre-script the questions and send them to the guest in advance.
Oh yeah, no, because then you get pre-scripted answers and it ruins conversation kind of thing. If I ever do that, I will say, hey, these are kind of an example of what I kind of like ask, talking point, things like that. I think I've only done that maybe once or twice. I have some people I'm talking to right now that I'm working on scheduling and whatnot, and like some people need more of that detail, more of that structure, things like that to help them prepare because they want to be well prepared and whatnot, know what's kind of ahead of them and whatnot. But I really try to stress the points. I've lost some guests because of this too, where it's like, I want to say his name's Dan or something. He runs some podcasts, multiple Instagram pages. I think he ended up blocking me because I like wouldn't give him like super uber specifics as to what we're going to be talking about, but I kept reiterating the same
question
thing.
Question one, your name, and then question two, follow up.
Right?
Because everything's,
Well, no,
everything's a follow up.
And I kept trying to explain to him, like, look, like we're just gonna have a free flowing conversation. Like that's the style that I do. Like I don't do, Kris, tell me about this. Yes or no? Give me your answer statement here. We're not doing a freaking presidential debate, and we're not freaking. I'm not trying to grill you or anything like that. So,
but some people are used to that. That is their style. That's how they grew up in this space. That's how they've done interviews.
And it's really hard for the average person to have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I've had guests that were so bad. Oh, speaking of that, I gotta say this important thing real quick. It's just thought popped in my head. Is that as a podcast host, when you have a guest, any guest, you are not required by law to release that episode.
Yes.
You can delete it.
Oh my gosh. I struggled with this because over the summer I had this episode that I just kept kicking off. I kept kicking it down the road, scheduling it, drafting it, scheduling it, drafting it, scheduling it, drafting it, scheduling it, drafting it. I did it with 2 episodes. One I ended up publishing. The other one I just was like, I just didn't. There's something about it that I just didn't love. Most of the time, I love the conversation. I love the things I do, but I was just like, ugh. Like I don't want to put this one out. Like it's not that it was a bad conversation. There was just something about it. I was just like, this is meh. Like this is meh. Like,
well, was there any way you could like perhaps maybe edit it to make it sound better? Maybe like chop up their answers, give them only the best parts, that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I don't remember. I probably could if I went back and I played with it some more and tinkered with it and things like that and whatnot. But there's just overall, it was just I just didn't love it. He ended up messaging me over summer. He's like, "Hey, I was looking through the feed and I noticed that it never came out and stuff." And
that's what happens. It happens.
It's like, oh shit! I gotta pay the piper right now, too, kind of thing. And I was like, and I was pretty honest with him. Like, look, this one just didn't end up coming out. I didn't like how it came out. I didn't love it, kind of thing. Or actually, no, I don't think I did. I think I maybe lied to him.
You gotta do the classic. You gotta do the classic thing. My computer Riverside just ate my files. I lost that episode that day.
I'm pretty sure I said something that the file was corrupted and I couldn't get it back and something along those lines. So if you're listening to this, he knows who he is. If he's listening, then I'm sorry. The truth is, I just didn't want to air the episode because it just wasn't a great episode.
That's all I have to say, man.
I know. That's all you got to say. That is literally all you have to say. You
can say it. You have to. You mean it's when you're face to face with the person. You're like doing this right now. It's kind of hard to like tell them like you suck and this isn't good and I'm just gonna not have this. Some people have got
Kris,
balls and they can pull it off.
That's mean. I wasn't gonna say it to you, but I'm just playing because you're a Padres fan. But I
haven't checked the game, but they were winning last I checked.
They won. They won.
They won?
I'm pretty sure they won. Hold on. Let's check this because I love baseball. I'm a big baseball guy.
Don't hurt me now.
I'm not going to hurt you. San Diego leads the series 2-1 after a 6-5 win today over the Dodgers.
Thank God they didn't get back up in there.
F the Dodgers.
God.
F the Dodgers.
You see what happened at the stadium the other day at the Dodgers?
Okay, let's talk about that because that was wild. Now that I got distracted there, the Dodgers fans, you guys are classless scum. I'm sorry. You guys are the least classiest fans in baseball. I'm so sorry, but you guys are terrible. I get it. Dodgers are great. A lot of history, a lot of legendary players to put on that uniform. But you fans, you guys are terrible. Like, why would you, like, literally, Jerickson Profar gave you a ball and you threw it back onto the field. You threw beer at players. Just because you live in LA and you guys are an bunch of entitled pieces of shit. No, you can't do that just because you're at a Dodgers playoff game wearing a Dodgers jersey. $300 at the stadium that you bought because you're a wannabe influencer. Like, get the fuck out of here. You are awful for that. I hate fans like that. Like, I don't use the word hate. I try to never use it, but I really strongly dislike. I'm not gonna say hate because there's no room for hate on this podcast, but I very much strongly dislike baseball fans or any sports fans whatsoever who send death threats to athletes, which happened to Mitch Garver of my Seattle Mariners this season.
Wow.
And fans that treat players like crap. Like, those guys are humans too. Like,
speaking of the death threat you're talking about, I bet coaches get that a lot. I can see
coaches. Yeah, there's no room for that. There's no room for that.
If your team loses the Super Bowl or loses the playoffs of any sport, that coach for that team is probably getting all kinds of death threats and all kinds
That's probably what's effed up Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, honestly. Is all that, like, all the like grief and the losses that he's gone through and like the regression they've made after going to the Super Bowl, and I think they lost that Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure they lost it.
Was that against the travel against the Chiefs, right?
It was either the Chiefs or the Bucks.
That's true. Huh?
I'll look that up.
But you know what? It's no room for hate. And hey, the Padres won tonight. If you say the Padres won tonight, if they won tonight, man, I am super excited because last I checked, it was the Dodgers got back and it was like a 1-run, lead. I was like, when you get 1 run and you're like, that's too close for comfort, So, I mean, if they had like a 10-run lead like they did the other day, I'm cool with that. I'm easy, but it was close. So, stadium packed tonight. You could not get tickets. It was nuts. And I was at the airport tonight. Well, not that far from there, but yeah, it's San Diego as a sports franchise. We lost the Chargers already, for God's sakes. The Chargers
dude.
The Super Bowl, and we lost the Chargers, and that sucks.
So bad.
And then all we have is the Padres. The Padres have kind of up down, and the last couple of years have been pretty good. And this year especially, pretty good. And San Diego has never won anything sports-wise, nothing.
So close all those years with Phillip Rivers. So close all those years. But Phillip Rivers was the guy who will get you to the NFC Championship. He gets you into round 1 or 2 of the playoffs, maybe an NFC Championship, but never a Super Bowl.
Right.
But yeah,
I know what it is.
Sensitive subject there with teams leaving. I was raised in Oakland. That's been tough. I remember going to Warriors games at the Oracle Arena, the early days of the Splash Bros. That was legendary. Now there's no Steph. Now there's no Clay. Now there's no Splash Brothers. In San Francisco now. Raiders left to Vegas. That was a terrible move for them. I mean,
well, do you remember when they were in LA? The LA Raiders?
Yeah. And then now they just lost the Oakland A's, and that was a dagger. That was a dagger to the soul. I was texting my friends and my buddies from back in the day. We're all sending pictures to each other after the season was over and the last home game of the A's, and that was hard.
Oh, do you see him getting the dirt? See him like shoveling the dirt in the water balls for fans?
That was amazing of that ground. That was the head groundkeeper who was doing that. Shout out to him because that's real right there. That is real. That is dirt that he's worked on for 30 years in that stadium.
That's crazy. That's
between the Raiders, between the A's, and everything that he did for that stadium and those grounds. Those were his grounds. He literally kept those grounds. It kept that field looking great. Converted it baseball to football, baseball to football, football to baseball. Like,
that's gotta hurt though. I remember when they were playing football up there during because it's like the season overlaps like during in this time of year or whatever, and they'd have like the field would be the part of it would be dirt, and they have to do they get tackle on that or I guess they do, but I'm like that's kind of I would think that I always thought when I saw that they would somehow put some fake turf or something like right over the dirt section. I mean, or whatever, something.
No, that was the coolest part of it, though, is that it wasn't. It was so unique. And the coolest thing there is that you can look up the pictures of it, but you can see that's how far of a throw it is from third to first because they have the yard line right over third to first.
I didn't think about that.
It's like a 40-yard throw. Like, it is insane.
That's crazy.
It's so cool when you look at it and you look at it a baseball perspective from a football perspective. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Well, they used to do that here in San Diego when they had the original stadium, which was the Jack Murphy Stadium, which was what Qualcomm Stadium was, and they didn't have Petco Park built yet, so it was originally baseball and football, and I don't remember how they handled the overlap like that. I don't remember it being dirt like I don't remember, but it's been so long ago. Maybe I was so little.
They could have just rolled out some turf on it and.
So maybe I just don't remember that. I just don't remember being like that. I do remember though when they made a big deal. The Padres went to the World Series, and I think it was '98, and they made a big deal about it. And the team, I mean, the city, like this is how exciting San Diego gets when we get close to a championship. We get so excited that we say, "Yes, build a stadium." The next year, like literally, like we didn't even win. We just got close enough, and they said, "Yes,
build it. Here's the money. Go build it. Have it ready. Have it ready by April."
Right. It's how exciting it was. It was like the biggest, building Petco Park. I helped build Petco Park. I was down there for construction and stuff.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was there. Well, not building, but I helped deliver the fuel. These generators in the building. All buildings like that have big generators, right? So with the fire marshal and everything, we had to go down there and put fuel into the system. They have to check like the systems, make sure the high fuel level and the low fuel levels and all that kind of operate. And the fire marshal's there to regulate everything and stuff like that. And had to take the hose and put it like down into the basement level of where like the below Petco Park section and things like that. And a few generators and a few different things and equipment. So while they're building it, we're filling up a few equipment stuff over there. I used to do that for work. Fuel up like construction equipment or generator equipment and things like that for all new construction places. And especially, I think right before the housing crash, there was a lot of new homes being built. Like every day, you're doing like 3 or 4 different like major home building job sites, and you'd fill up like a tank on site for their like forklift machines for like the lumber and all that kind of stuff. So you fill up that kind of stuff, and there's always new homes and I remember there's so many. There's a big area down here in Chula Vista called like East Lake, and it's pretty new. It's a newer development, but it's spread out for like wide miles. I remember when they're building that, it looked like just miles and miles in every direction of like to see like all these homes being built and all these roads being paved, and it's like this crazy development, you know. So we used to do that kind of stuff. That all happened around the same time as the stadium was being built too. I think it was, I think 2004 was the first year it was open, and that was the year I went that year to the stadium, mostly to just check it out and like see what this whole cool place is about. And the cool thing about Petco Park is that
2004. You're right.
It actually had a lot of, not only it's a cool spot, it's the way everything's kind of designed, is that there's a lot of cool food vendors that are there. It's all local stuff, and they're all big name restaurants. They're all big name places. They're all got food spots. It's like some of the best food you'll ever have in any ballpark. It's not just your basic hot dogs and basic stuff.
No,
they do
Petco
have that
Park
stuff
has some amazing looking food.
Yeah, it's like gourmet, not gourmet, but it's like the gourmet stuff. When I say gourmet, it's not. I mean, they do have fancy restaurant stuff too, but it's mostly like their spin on. Like, see, it's like a fancy local restaurant, and they'll make their own little booth out of it, and they have like their 4 things on the menu or whatever. They got like these tri-tip nachos that are really, really good. They've got these tacos that are really, really good, and burritos, and like all this different stuff is really, really good. They're all based on like local restaurants.
Yeah,
and they have their little booth
those are
there.
awesome.
Kind of, yeah, so that's really good. I mean, kind of get hungry thinking about it, but
yeah, I'm about to say you're making me hungry, man. You're making me hungry. All right, so we talked podcasting, we talked baseball, so we hit the big 2. Now let's talk a little bit deeper here. You mentioned to me that your divorce was particularly difficult, especially with the young kids being involved. I remember for me, my kids were super young when I got divorced.
How
my
old?
Kids were, let's see, it was 20. What year was it? It was 2020. It was 2021. 2021. It was my youngest was 5 months old.
That was recent.
And yeah, it's about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
Oh wow.
And so my youngest was 5 months old at the time, and then my oldest was about to turn 4.
Okay.
And yeah, because then my daughter started preschool later that year. My oldest daughter started preschool later that year. And yeah, so it was really hard, especially having like a literal baby.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of the same. I was very similar too. My son was probably around 1. I would think my youngest, maybe Man, maybe not that old, maybe less, maybe younger than that. And I think about it, probably less. Maybe I don't know exact months wise, but he was in that probably same range. I know diapers for sure, and crawling. I think around that time
Mhm.
too. So it was hard. I think for me because I think I felt like when we had kids that I felt like she was more excited to have kids than I was, maybe because I was. I mean, I'm not saying I want to be a dad. I'm just saying that I think that like at that time, I think maybe women just feel like they maybe it's a woman thing. Maybe
Well,
it's a
how
bonding.
let me ask you this, how old were you guys?
How old was I when I
Mhm.
got married, or when we had
When you
our
guys
kids?
had your, son?
First kid, first kid.
Mhm.
All right, our first son. How old was I? Was 2010. I was probably. I was well. I married down. I married young. I guess to say I wasn't young, but she was young. So I was probably mid-30s, and
Okay.
she was probably mid-20s, or
Okay,
mid,
yeah, so
or maybe a little older than that. I think we had like 8 year. We had like an 8 year gap. I think it was.
okay.
So think of it
I
like
mean,
that.
yeah, so that makes sense though. That makes sense though, because there's that age, like, for women, I think they really put on, like, a lot of emphasis on that 25 to 30. Like, this is kinda like
The
I mean,
window.
granted, it yeah, that's, like, the window. Granted, it's progressed since then, to now that window is like, well, start at 40 if you want to.
Well, good luck.
Um,
My gosh.
yeah,
Like,
it's
Al
difficult, but
Pacino was it the Al Pacino? What's his name?
Al Pacino?
Chi Al Pacino, that's right. Al
Yeah,
Pacino. Didn't he have, like, a kid that's, like he's, like, 90 and he has, like, a kid or something?
yeah, he's in his 80s and knocked up some, like, 20-year-old.
Well, good for him, but I don't know.
Yeah, right? Get it, son, get it. Legend, status right there. Um,
But I think when we got divorced, so how old was I'm trying to think how old I was. I wasn't it was funny. I kind of figured my ages where I was at in, like, different milestones in my life. But for some reason, my age during that milestone, I can't recall. But I do know the only ones I really know are the ones when I bought my first condo, my second house. I was weird. I bought my first condo when I was 30 years old,
okay,
and I bought my first house when I was 40 years old.
okay.
So in between was when all that fun stuff happened.
In between with
So,
kids and the divorce and,
yeah,
are you remarried now or?
yes, with Christine.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So, but yeah, the divorce, it kind of threw me off guard, and I didn't want to believe it. When it's infidelity involved, you don't want to believe it,
Yeah,
and
same.
and then
Been there.
when it happens, and you hear it from third parties, and you question, and then also it's like almost with anything, is that like everything that you're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, she wasn't really spending nights here or spending
Yeah,
nights with that person.
you start to put all the pieces together,
It
and it
starts it's
all
spinning,
starts to make
and then
sense,
and
and
you're
you're
spinning
like,
around your
"How
head.
the hell did I miss all this?
Well,
How
I
did I
wouldn't want to hit.
not pick up on it?"
I don't think I was missing. I just think that I was always giving her like the benefit of the doubt for some reason. I was always
Of
like,
course. I mean,
you
because that's your
know,
wife. That's what you wanna do. You don't want it to be the opposite. You want it to be legit and things like that, but, you know
so basically,
yeah.
yeah, that's what happened. And I got so pissed off, and I was so distressed, and I was so like spinning out of my head. I had to tell work, I'm like, I need to take a leave of absence, or a sick leave, or whatever you want to give me. I need time off to process all this stuff before I go out and kill somebody or something, or do something crazy or whatever, and all this. And so they gave me whatever. At the time, the company was changing hands to another company, and there was something goofy with the way they set things up. So I think I was allowed to get that. I think I was allowed to cash in on my vacation early, which was like 2 weeks. So they gave me that. I remember during that time, and I think also I did a few stupid things. I mean, I don't know if they're stupid or not, but when you're married, if you ever been married, and you've been married with somebody for a while, and if you ever have like financial issues where you're both trying to figure out who pays what bill, this bill, that bill, this bill, and there's always kind of like you feel like you don't have the spending freedom to do what you want with your money, I guess.
Mhm.
When I got divorced and separated, I'm like, I'm gonna buy what I want to buy. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And so but I had to. I knew I was getting divorced. I had to split everything down the middle. So that was tough. We didn't own the house. We rented it. I stayed in the house. I just paid the rent because I couldn't pay the rent. She moved out with her new boyfriend or whatever it was. But I had to split. when I was working for the company, the company I was with, I was only at the company for probably maybe at that point, I think maybe a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years into the company. So I hadn't had built a massive 401k portfolio at that point yet, but I had to split it with her. So since at that point the company
You had to split your
changed.
401k with her
Yeah.
that you
So
paid into.
yes. Yes, they said anything that happened while you were married. I got the job I got that job while we were married. So anything you get while you're married, anything that you got, well, the way they explained to me is that anything that you, whether it's if you're married together and you bought a car together as being married, that's common property. Anything that's common property that you got.
Yeah.
So that job I had got while we were married. I didn't get it before we were married. I got it while we were married. So while we were anything that, including 401k and all that stuff, and it just so happened that we had switched companies from one company. So the old company, like the other new company, bought us out. So they closed. So they gave us an option to move our 401k over or cash it out or do what we want because we switched companies. It was almost as if we left the company. If you leave a company with a 401k, you decide what you want to do with it or whatever, how it works, right? But the company's not.
I've never been asked about what I want to do with my 401k after I've left the company.
Well, don't let her get a hold of it. So.
No, but I was thinking about that because we just had like an all staff training and we had our investment company for our 401ks and things like that now. And I was just like, this company never asked me, this company never asked me, this company never asked me, this company never asked me. And so now I need to call them and be like, hey, can you help me get like a hold of these? I have no clue who they're through. But this was the employer. This is when I worked for them kind of thing. So I got to go down that rabbit hole. But I didn't know that was like part of it because that wasn't part of mine.
Well, because I didn't have a ton invested at that point. I mean, when I say not a ton, I mean, I think, well, let me tell you the numbers here. So what happened is that I decided to just, it's stupid on my part though, is I decided to just cash it all out, right? And they tell you when you do that, because you're not the right age and all that stuff, you're going to pay hefty fees and fines. And I'm like, whatever, I don't even care. Just give me the money, because I want to get that money out of the account so I can pay her off. And I should have taken the other half and thrown it back into the account or whatever you do it, but I did not. I was like, I'm free. I got some cash. I'm going to do what I want to do. So I went to Vegas. I bought like 3 ATV motorcycle quads, and I was going to the desert all the time. And I was doing stuff like that because at that point I was like, I felt kind of like I couldn't do anything being married. I felt like even though we were making good money and stuff, I felt like I couldn't spend on cool stuff and do things and stuff like that. So I felt freedom, I think what happens, and also I never had a lot of money growing up. I've always was very poor growing up. Family was very poor. They are very poor. And so I never had a lot of extra money. And so when I had this cash that I never had before, all of a sudden I have it now. I'm like, well, I'm going to do something that's going to bring me joy and make me happy. So I spent it on stuff which I thought made me joy and happy. But so what sucked was that when tax time came, of course, they add all that into what they do. All I know is I had to pay a hefty fine on my tax. I owed a ton of money that year on taxes.
Did they not take tax out when it got cashed out?
No. So it was, well, they may have, what did they use? No, they had to split it. It was like probably, I think I pocketed somewhere around maybe 10 to 20 grand.
Okay.
And then, so she got maybe 40 grand total. She got the other 20 or whatever, that kind of thing, or whatever. But the problem was that when on her tax, it got stacked into her taxes, no tax taken out. So I owed like $10,000 in taxes afterwards. And did she help pay that? Absolutely not. Even though our tax numbers were, no, of course not. Of course not. So I had to pay all that, and I had to pay payments and do whatever I had to do and all that stuff to get caught up. I had to cover that load, and I had to pay child support to her. And when it came to the child support, we were going through the courts. We were going through a, what do you call it? Like a legal person or whatever to help figure all this stuff out. And then the legal person was telling me about if you guys earned it together, it's equal property. If anything that was like, say for example, if your wife starts a business while you're married, married, and the business blows up, becomes big, and you guys get divorced, you get half of that. And then the wife would say, no, it's not. It's my business. Did you create it together while you're married? Yes. Then it's clinically, when you're joined together as a married union, everything gets split down the middle. Like
Yeah.
everything. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so everything property wise. So that's why I
So
cashed the 401k out and gave half
yeah.
and peace out. But I had to end up paying all the freaking fees on that
Yeah.
because she didn't.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucked.
So with all this throughout the divorce and the fallout after, the taxes, the money, things like that, what are some of those lessons that you took away from the divorce going into your next marriage, moving forward, and things like that? What are some of those lessons that you learned?
Well, the lessons that I learned. Well, I mean, I think that
Pay your taxes.
yeah. Also too is like be okay to like stand up for things that you think are right or wrong, and things like that. Because we've all
100%.
been. I think when you marry young or you marry somebody that's young who has no idea of how like the real world works, and you try to explain things to them and they throw a fit, and you're like almost like the kid in the store back at the beginning, it was like the kid throwing a fit at the store, like, no, you can't have this. Why? I want it now, blah blah whatever. And you're like, well, I'm older and wiser and I've kind of been through these things. I kind of know, like, yeah, it's not good to like throw away all the tax bills you get in the mail into the trash. It's and blow them off and like say, well, we'll get it. You know what's funny is that before I got divorced, we were having tax issues too with my first wife and stuff. And one thing hit me really hard. I didn't know if you could do this. Was that we were getting these tax bills. We had taxes we owed like a year or two prior when I lost my job, and money was tight, and so we had taxes that were due. We couldn't afford to pay them, and I thought she was handling them, and she wasn't. She was just throwing them away in the trash, like just like, oh, whatever. It just totally ignoring them, right? Like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? Well, I'll tell you what they did. I went to the ATM one day. I went to my bank one day to pull some cash out, and the bank said some error on the screen that I never saw before. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I go inside to the bank and say, what's wrong with the ATM outside? What's going on? They looked into it. Oh, the IRS did a lien on your account. They froze all your account money. Everything in your account's totally frozen. I couldn't buy groceries. I couldn't buy gas. I couldn't buy rent. I couldn't do anything. And so I called the IRS hotline and begged them to like physically I had to, that's what I had to say. Okay, we'll go on your little payment plan. We promise, that all I begged them. And then they freed the money, and like I was able to go to the bank the next day or whatever. And I'm talking things like that.
Real
that
stuff that, I mean, we're just not taught. Like, our kids just aren't taught this. Like,
well, I
we're
teach them
never
now.
taught that.
I teach them that stuff now, and I think that
Oh yeah, absolutely.
when a problem like that arises, you have to really take care of it. I know I'm trying to be very. I've had my mistakes, but I try to be very particular about like paying bills on time. When I get paid, I pay bills first, and then what's left over is play money. Some people, like my ex-wife, for example, would do the exact opposite. It was like play money first, and if we have money left over, we'll pay some bills. If we've got money left over,
And that's so common. That's still so common with young people. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's still so common. I mean, because one thing kids aren't taught, they're not taught financial literacy in school in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's some great companies out there, like starts with green something is one. I can't remember it. There's some other really cool money management apps that help you teach your kids financial literacy by like giving them a debit card that you control, and then they can earn things. They can earn money for doing different tasks, and then it'll just transfer from your account to their account. There's some really, really cool ones out there. There's also some really cool ones for like phones and things like that. Like Gab Wireless is a really cool one.
Oh yeah, everything's wireless now. I do use my phone for everything now. I don't even use I pull my dude. If somebody asks me, you got to pull your debit card out of my wallet, I'm like, oh my god! Don't you guys have Apple Pay like everybody else? That's all I ever use, man. I just have to pay and go. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where I think when you find the next partner and you find someone, you have to really have those serious conversations about money and like. Do we combine every money or keep money aside? The way we've kind of figured things out because we both have established careers and established like incomes. My wife now, Christine, and I, because we've done that coming into the marriage, kind of like versus like if you're really young, you both like get married early. You don't know nothing. You both like getting your first jobs together. You throw your money together.
You don't know shit. You don't know shit.
But as you're much older, like when Christine met me, I had already purchased a home all by myself. Like, I have a
Mhm.
home, I've got a car, I've got bills, I got taxes, I got my own job, I got my own stuff. She comes in with her own car, her own, she didn't have a house, but she had her own career and her own stuff
Yeah,
too.
you
So
guys already have your own stuff. You guys already have your own lives figured out. You guys already have it all not separate, but it's like, okay, I have a life before you, I have a life with you, and hopefully there's no life after you. But if there is,
right.
then
So I
I'm gonna
think when it
have a
came
life after you if there is.
so when it comes to financial stuff with money, what we decided to do is we have a joint account that's linked into both accounts. I have a Chase bank account, and inside there, I've got my account, I've got my savings account, I've got we call it the house money account, and we just
Oh,
deposit.
so you kind of do the Steve Harvey method here. So this is kind of like something Steve Harvey's talked about, to where there's four accounts kind of. Where
Yeah,
there's
well,
the combined account for all the expenses, then there's the his and her account, and then there's the savings account.
whatever you want to do it. It's like it's not just like one. Like back in the old days, when, like my parents were probably growing up, and everything I've heard from other people is that they'll have just a one account, right? Just a one
Mhm,
account, umbrella account, and it's for both the husband and the wife to throw all their cash into one single account,
mhm.
and I guess it kind of works and stuff. And I know it all. I mean, going back to community property, it's all everyone's account anyways. If you think about it, if as far as the courts are concerned, it's all everyone's anyways. But to
Mhm.
make things simple and to keep things simple and keep things easy and to figure things out, in an easy way, we've decided to, keep our own separate bank accounts, but then we have a joint like house account, and she's got a card for it, but I don't think I have a card for that account, but it doesn't matter because I can transfer money in and out of it with my app on my phone. So it's not
Okay, yeah.
like it's not like I really need a card. I can just move money to my account and then Apple Pay, here I go, if I need to do it. But I've never had spent money out of that. I've put money into it. I've never pulled out of it. So that's usually what it is, and that's what we use it for. Is for like the cell phone bill and like some house bill type stuff. She said, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you toss?" She'll say like, "Hey, can you toss in $200 into the house account to help pay for the cell phone or whatever it is?" No problem. App, boom. Okay, good. We're cool.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's stuff like that, and so we don't have joint account. I think that's one thing we were talking about. First got married. I think her previous marriage was the typical like joint account type of format. I think her parents did that and that sort of thing when they grew up.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, I don't think Christy, I don't think that my ex-wife, I don't think we ever did that. Now that I think about it, but because it's the same thing. It's almost the same thing as that when I got married the first time, I already had bought my first property. I already
Mhm.
had my stuff, and so not that I'd be like selfish or like that, but I'm just saying that like it just keeps things kind of easy to figure out the payments and stuff. And thank God, I mean, at one point I did have her start to pay stuff. My first wife, and she wouldn't pay anything. She was like not paying stuff and everything. And then you get a phone call looking to repossess something. You're like, what are you talking about? Hey, honey, did you pay that? I haven't been paying that for a year. What do you mean I've been paying for a year? Well, we didn't have the money for it. Why didn't you tell me that? Like, I mean, conversations like that uh, can be avoided if perhaps maybe if you guys figure out like I guess I was like listening to Dave Ramsey, and it's always like was it the four walls or four something where he says where it's like you get your four cores or whatever he calls it, like shelter,
Yeah.
vehicle, the clothing, food, maybe is that what it is? I think it's got it's
Yeah,
four.
something like that. I don't listen to Dave Ramsey. I can't stand that guy.
Okay, well, some people can't stand it, but I'm saying like there's some stuff I like, some stuff I don't like. But I'm saying
Yeah.
I when it comes to like paying the things that are most important, you should have like a tier level. There should be like
Yeah.
housing, and then like if you got to drive to work or get to work, that transportation takes you there because
Yeah.
without work, none
Also
of this matters.
transportation,
Food,
food, and
maybe
yeah, it's
health.
just like yeah, well, it's like your Maslow's like hierarchy of needs as well. It's like food, water, shelter, clothes, hygiene, things like
Right.
that.
Once
Like
you
you have
cover
to you
that,
have to have your basic needs met, then
once you
you
got those,
can do
yeah.
more.
Right, then you can go to Costco and buy 18, $800 worth of food that's gonna go bad in a week because it's just or whatever you're gonna do, or take that trip to Vegas and gamble away your paycheck or whatever. Oh my gosh, I used to
Mhm.
work at a casino. I used to work at a casino for a long time ago, and
Oh my.
I wasn't a bad gambler, but I knew people who were. I knew it's one guy. I tell you not, dude. This guy. he was a security guard for the casino. Nice guy. And I didn't work in security, but I worked with security at my department. My department was I worked on the actual slot machines, where I actually took the cash from the slot machines and took it to the vault directly. It was like a 6-7 hour shift. Back then it was 4 sections of the casino, and there was like a team of 2, and then we go through and do it. Anyways, we had a security guard that worked with us. But since we worked on the machines, we weren't allowed to gamble on the machines because we worked with the machines. That was like a rule they had. But the security guards could do whatever they want because they weren't touching them, whatever, right? So it was kind of sad because you see a lot of people like right after they get off work, because the casinos don't close. So right after they get off work, you'd see them go straight to the machines and play right after they get off work. And the casino did this thing where they were allowing people to cash their paychecks right at the cashier cage, right there. So this guy was telling me that because he liked to gamble a lot, he'd take his paycheck and he'd go on payday, get his paycheck, cash it at the casino, get the cash, go to the slot machines. And he was telling me like he literally almost lost his entire paycheck on the first day. And he hit a spin where he got it back again. And that was kind of like a wake up call because he like thought like, there goes my rent money, and I seen it happen. And, but he was telling me the story about that. I was like, man, like I only gamble with stuff I know I'm going to get rid of. Like if you're comfortable with throwing that $100 bill out the window of your car as you drive down the freeway, then gamble with it. Go ahead. Sure. No, why not? But if that $100 bill has got to go towards rent or food or groceries or gas, then don't do that. But I know it's an addiction, like drugs and alcohol. Gambling is an addiction. And especially if you work in the casino all day long and you're around it all the time, you would see a lot of employees that, like, especially servers. There was a server girl that was a waitress in the place, and since they don't handle the machines, they're allowed to play, with no problem. So you'd see her with her tip money, like right afterwards, like she get off, like I work night shift. I would work like, I guess, graveyard shift or whatever, like after midnight. And she would be done like probably, midnight or 10 o'clock, whatever. And I would see her in her like uniform or whatever at the slot machine all throughout the morning hour after work playing with those tip money. So,
it's such a vice, dude. It's such a vice because, it gives you those dopamine hits. It gives you that like, oh, I'm winning. And then it win just enough. But I mean,
well, the sad thing is when you spend the money that you shouldn't be spending, like the security guard who almost blew his entire rent on his paycheck. Well, just the fact losing your paycheck, it's it's just funny is that there was another casino. There's a couple casinos in town here, and there's a bunch of them, but there was another one. These had these gimmicks. Well, a long time. I don't think they do this anymore, but they had this gimmick, and I actually won once on this gimmick. But the gimmick was this basically: if you cash your paycheck at this casino, at their little special little booth they have, they like spin this almost like a lottery ball thing that flips around. Each ball had instead of a number on like the lottery, they got like a color in the ball, right? And each color ball, if it gets drawn up like a bingo thing, if it gets drawn up, represented a prize. And one of the prizes was double your paycheck, but you had to cash it, right? I used to do it all the time. I got all kinds of prizes, but I also had discipline where I would like take my money from my paycheck back home with me,
Right? Yeah.
But a lot of people couldn't do that because here you got all this cash. You just cashed it. You're in the casino.
Yeah.
Your entire paycheck. But I did win it once.
But terrible.
I did win it one time. I did win the double your money one time, but it sucked. It was a smaller paycheck. It was like, you got paychecks with overtime and stuff. It was a paycheck that was like super small, like half a week's worth of pay or whatever. It was such a small, I was so pissed, but it was cool though. It was fun. But
at least that half made it into a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have not heard of things like that in a while. So I don't think they do that anymore. But I could be wrong. I don't know if the casinos everywhere do that, but it was kind of an ingenious way because they know that you are not leaving with your entire paycheck's worth of money. You're going to go to the nearest slot or table or whatever your thing is.
You're going to start playing.
Because you got the cash. It's right there in your hand. It's like, I mean, it doesn't get any easier in that, but But yeah, that was great. They used to get, but they all had a lot of prizes too. So it wasn't just double your paycheck. It was like free dinners and free like gift shop, like gift certificates and like,
Cool.
I mean, cool. I mean, stuff. I mean, it was a smaller casino at the time. It's bigger now, but back then it was much smaller. So they didn't have a lot of stuff, but like like $100 gift thing for the gift shop or whatever, or gift card or whatever. And I don't know if they had a gas station. No, they didn't have a gas station back then, but they might have given away like food court vouchers. Like here's $20 in a food court or whatever, and things like that. So I would eat a lot of those kind of things and stuff like that. So, but the thing was, they always guaranteed something. So when you did cash, you win, you were guaranteed a winner, no matter what it was. It could have been as low as,
but then that builds your confidence that you just won something, and now you're feeling like, well, I just won that. I'm gonna go.
I won $20 at the food court. I'm good to go. I
can go gamble that $20 kind of thing, and I got 20 extra bucks. Now I can go use $20 and all that fun stuff. But man, that casino's crazy. If you're struggling with these addictions or anything like that, there's always resources out there. I believe you can call. There's a number now for it in different states for gambling, because sports betting is so like prevalent and whatnot, parlays, legs, things like that.
Right.
And so gambling's taken on so many different ways, shapes, and forms, money lines, things like that. It's peak sports season right now, where we got playoff baseball, we got NFL going, we got NBA starting up, we got hockey season in the mix,
college football too.
So we got college football. So you got all these different sports going on, college football, and just college basketball is going to be starting preseason, and college hockey. You got all the sports and everything in between. So if you're struggling with any of these addictions, go and get help. Call the numbers, go to your local bettor, and wherever you're placing your bets, look on the apps, DraftKings, like things like that. They all have them. They all have the resources there. If you're struggling with these addictions and you want to get out of it, seek help, seek guidance, find people, and start putting in the work to do it. So, ready to wrap this thing up with some fun questions?
Yeah, go ahead, man. What you got?
All right, let's wrap this thing up. I really wanted to use a sound effect.
All right. By the way, what kind of tool do you use to put the sound effects in? Is it all in Riverside?
So actually, yeah, they're already preloaded with Riverside, except for the Podbeat app, the Podbeats.
Okay.
Those are given to me by the Podbeat people. They are given to me. I upload them, and then I can use them. So it's very simple to upload. I can upload any media, any sound effect, and I can use that. So if I want like a chicken or like a car horn, something, which
I know they got ones preloaded in there. Have you messed with the like visual ones they've got? Because Riverside has a visual one too, where you can have like a visual graphic.
Yes. They only have this one, I believe.
Look how cool that is. Check that out.
So
that's my studio right there. Look at that. How do you guys get that in here? Check that out. There's my phone floating away.
I know. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. That is pretty cool though. Look at that metal.
So then it plays live and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I did notice when I was talking to. I was talking to Stephen Robles of Riverside, and I was messing with it before I came on. I was playing with that stuff, and he was showing me that kind of stuff, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't know you guys could do that." That was something I was actually kind of blown away with. The fact that he said you can put in any graphic you want into, you just upload it in there, I guess, and then you can play it for your intro, outro, whatever. And it made things very simple to like produce a show like on the fly like this, instead of having to like need a console and like all kinds of cool stuff. You can kind of do it on the fly. But anyways, what you got, man? What's your questions?
Yes. There's also some other cool things. Laughter, laugh track, great.
I'm a stand-up comedian on the weekends, so yeah.
Are you really?
Do you believe if I told you?
I would have, I would have been like, no way, that's cool. I used to do improv in college, so I used to do improv shows and things like that as part of an improv group. Name of the group was called Hotspot. And it was super fun. I miss doing improv, something I definitely love doing. But I have the podcast for that, so I get to do a lot of improv there.
Yeah,
so anyways,
of course, yeah.
What is an unexpected skill or hobby that you picked up since becoming a dad or starting your podcasting journey?
Okay, being a dad, well, the first one was like how to change a diaper. I mean, I never did that.
Valuable life skill.
Well, okay, but one thing, I've only had boys though, so I don't know. There's a trick with girls that I don't know about because I haven't had a girl to change. I've only changed boys, so I don't know.
You don't got to worry about getting a shower. I know that for a fact.
What?
And you never had to worry about getting a pee shower, so.
But boys, yeah. I mean, the trick to it is, I think, is you have to like I spent such a long time. My youngest now is 12. 12, so I'm trying to
Yeah, you
remember how
gotta
I did
like
it.
cover and then like
Yeah, yeah,
fold really quick. And you just gotta be
yeah.
smart. You just gotta be smarter than the baby. Which, if you have a baby, please make sure you're smarter than it. Are you smarter than a baby? That should be a new show.
Oh,
What is your? Oh, go ahead.
oh, to see about the parenting thing. I mean,
I love it. I love it. And so as a podcaster and a dad, I'm sure you've got some great dad jokes up your sleeve. What is your favorite go-to dad joke? What's your all-time favorite dad joke?
Oh, what was it? I was telling the kids this all the time. It's one of those ones where like I told it so much, I can't think what it was. I used to tell the kids it all the time, and they would like repeat it. Gosh, I wish I would have known. I wish you had asked me earlier when I thought this, like dug it in the archive of my brain because I haven't said it in a long time. And the kids say you say it all the time, and I'm like, I haven't said it in a while. And I think about it, but maybe it'll come to me. I don't know.
It'll come to you. My absolute favorite is when my girls say, "I'm something. I'm hungry," or "I'm tired," or "I'm bored." I go, "Hi, bored. I'm dad. Hi, hungry. I'm dad."
Right.
And my
Right.
daughters, they cannot stand it. They're just go, ugh.
No, I know that's what I think parents use in general. I think it's like a general thing that all parents do, or whatever. My parents have said that, and grandparents have said that, and I think it's generational.
Timeless. It's a timeless classic.
It is timeless classic. I wish I could
Anything
think of a joke.
Get the existential groan out of your children is perfect. If you could have any guest on your podcast, who would it be? Any guest?
Anyone, that's funny.
Anyone,
that's funny.
Anyone at all.
I know what's funny is that I've been very selective with guests on my show. I didn't used to be. The Christine show, different story. We started getting more selective on that show with guests, but originally we jump in. It was like anybody, come on in. Anybody with something that's somewhat popular would be great to be on the show, and then we went down that route for a while. But then, as like with Podtastic Audio, I originally was having other podcasters on the show to talk about their shows, but some of them, they weren't very good, and some of their shows weren't very good, and the things they talked about weren't that great, and they were good. Some were good, some were not good, and then I had some request people coming on, and I sampled some of their stuff, and I was like, I didn't want to tell them this, but like, your stuff wasn't that great, so I didn't want to say that, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on people that are going to serve my audience particularly, and that's the only people I'm going to let on my show. And so that is the decision I made probably a few years ago. And when it comes to having guests on my show, so the only guest I would have on my show is somebody that is in the podcasting space, whether it be the software space or the website building space, any kind of tool space. Like I had the guy on from FlowSend, and he was in the creation space, that kind of stuff. I had Stephen Robles from Riverside on the show, and he was, he's like the face of Riverside, like he's Mr. Riverside. If you look on Riverside's website, he's like all over the Riverside website and all of their YouTube channel. And he's got a big YouTube channel himself. So he's in that space. So anything that's like related to my particular space, which is the helping the indie podcaster creation space. So anybody in that space would be somebody I would want on the show. And I've had a lot of great people on the show in that space. And I'm trying to think of like who else is left. I think I've gotten like I've had like a hit list of people I wanted on my show, and I've pretty much have gone through almost all of them. There's a couple stragglers that I have not had on my show that I wanted on. But I'm okay if I don't have people on my show. My show is not an interview show. I don't do an interview podcast. I do a show that once in a while will have an interview. That's my show. That's my show. So I don't have to have guests. That's why I can be very selective with a guest. I can pick the one I want to have on. And if I don't want that one, I want this one, because this one I feel will serve my audience better. And so that's why I will have this person on. Or in fact, what I usually do, I'll ask that person directly. I'll try to ask them because I feel that they're a good fit. If they've got a podcast, I'll listen to their podcast, or I'm already listening to their podcast. Like Rob Walsh of Lipson, I was listening to their show, The Feed, forever. And I asked him, come on. I've already had his co-host Elsie on the show like a year ago. And Rob's a busy guy. I met him at Podcast Movement, and we had a good conversation up there and stuff. We talked a while, and I enjoyed his presentation he did. And I pitched him maybe a few months later. I said, hey, I saw you, remember, and I'd like to talk more about that same pitch you just did, that same thing you did. Can we talk more about that on my show? be very specific. Like my show's about podcasting. You're in a podcasting space. You work for one of the biggest podcast media companies, So, and we met earlier, so let's work this out, So that's how I approached it with that. And a few other ones too. I try to make it in their best benefit. But the person like figure out the name of a person. I don't really know because I don't chase names. I chase value.
Makes sense.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, I love that. I was gonna say something similar. I got one of my dream like guests. There's this guy. His name is Levi Horn, former NFL lineman for Chicago Bears and whatnot. Just a really cool story. He talked at a 2-day training that I went to. He's one of the keynote speakers, and I just loved his message so much. And I was like, wow, this dude is him. Just down to earth, amazing story of like recovery and through mental health and things like that. And just the way he spoke, like, really captivated me. And so literally later that day, I was in his messages. It took a year for us to get him on the podcast. But it was worth it. It was so worth it. The conversation was so amazing. Connecting with him was so cool. It was just great to be able to like have that connection. So, but I definitely hear you. Like, it's not really name chasing now. It's more like, and it's not really anyone for me either. It's like, okay, who would be a really cool conversation? Who could add some kind of value? Who has a cool story? And you've shared a lot of cool stories, which has been really cool.
You're welcome.
So they're fantastic. Last question here, or second last question here. After a long day of parenting, podcasting, what's your favorite way to unwind and recharge?
Sleep.
Yes.
So I work a lot. I'm really busy. I do I can't say I don't get paid to do podcasting because I do, but it's not like my job. It's not like it's not my career. It's not my job. It's not my thing. It's a thing I do after I do everything else. After I do the parenting, after I do the real job and that sort of stuff. It's like, okay, I try to fit podcasting into like the place after all the basic essentials, just like the house, what's it called? The four walls or whatever, the thing, the Dave Ramsey deal with, paying for all the basic stuff first before you can do the fun stuff. And podcasting is kind of the fun stuff, but I do it professionally now with clients and creating shows for them and things like that, which does physically pay real money. So that is real income. That's a real thing. If the thing you do doesn't pay you in cash, then I think it's kind of more a hobby. And if it's a hobby, then you probably shouldn't put it you should probably put more on the back burner versus the first thing you want to do, which is hard to do, especially if you're so excited to do it. I love doing this kind of stuff, but I do realize, I got to go to work. I gotta earn a paycheck to pay for all this cool stuff I got right here.
Right.
Like I've got a few freebies, but I didn't get a free computer and I didn't get a free Roadcaster. I may have to pay for that.
Yeah,
but
still waiting for that, Rode. Still waiting for that. Still waiting for it.
You are. That'd be a good guest to get. They have a guy from Rode because Rode's in Australia, and they've got a guy from Rode that's on all their like promo material. I can't fit the guy's name, but
man, I just love that Rode has infiltrated Target. And so you can get a whole podcast setup at Target for like $300. Yeah, microphone, mic boom.
I've heard about that, but I haven't. I've got a bunch of. You have a Rode pod mic. It looks like also right.
Yep.
Yeah,
kids are going to be getting my little podcast studios for Christmas.
Nice. No, I've got microphones, all kinds of stuff. So, but to unwind though, I think podcasting for me is like unwinding, doing the research and doing stuff and playing around with different tools and just figure out what works. And I'm always tinkering with things and trying to figure out which ways to make things better, faster, easier, cheaper, without compromising quality. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people do is that they will get something out quickly. Like, for example, they may just record the Zoom call and then directly from Zoom itself, throw it into their host, immediate host, as is, boom, done, or throw it to YouTube as is, whatever, done, and call that a show or whatever. But I like to put a little more pizzazz and like I've always worked with audio and I love good audio and editing audio, make sure it sounds the way you want it, and throwing in even audio sound effects that sound cool, and you can blend and mix and kind of change things around how you like. I like doing that kind of stuff. And so for me, that's all fun. So learning ways to kind of make that whole process easier and sound better, and ways to take like like a guest that has horrible audio because they came in on earbuds like this, thing here, and they don't have a microphone. You got to take that and make it sound like a microphone. Like
Yeah, like
figuring
they
out
were just on like one of these with us,
right, trying to make it sound like that. And that's the thing that I've trying to learn and tinker with, and that's how I kind of unwind. It's just figuring out ways to make this whole process easier and better. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing, like, I do editing, right? I edit for clients, and I record and edit at the same time. And so I don't charge per the minute or the hour for the job. I charge for the total job. So because I charge for the whole job, if I can find ways to get that job like done faster, I make more money. If it took me, so it's like, it's like being on salary, I guess, for example, if you get your whole entire job done in 1 hour versus 8 hours, I mean, you made a way much more money because time is money. And so that's what I try to do, is I'm trying to play with different tools. A new tool comes out, but I'm not somebody that has to jump on every single new piece of equipment or every single piece of software that comes my way. I find the ones that I think will work best for me. And if they got a free program, I'll kick the tires on them and try them.
Oh yeah, I love kicking the tires on new things. And
right, but a lot of these ones I've noticed, like a lot of these ones out there, they have gone to a pay us platform of some sort.
Yeah,
there are free ones out there, but a lot of them are the pay first and then play later kind of a thing.
Yeah, which is hard for a lot of like indie podcasters. We're just trying to get off the ground, things like that. Like, yes, there's a free version of Riverside, which is really great. There's a lot of tools, things you can use with it, but there comes a point where you need more, where there's something you may want to do with it that you just can't do. So then you're ended up paying and things like that. And there's money just out of your own pocket, things like that.
Right.
Which is that's why it's so important to support your favorite podcast. If they have a Patreon, that's $1 or $2 a month. What are you going to use that $1 or $2 for?
Right.
Throw it over to YDP.
Right. Help everybody out, man. It's support everybody. There are free ways to do this stuff, and a lot of podcasters do the bare bones free everywhere, freeware, free stuff, free everything. And I was like that too when I got started too. I was doing the same thing. I was like, man, what can I do for absolutely nothing to get this done, like bare bones? And then I realized that, like you're saying, oh, well, I might need this extra tool because I've got guests that are coming in with crap. I got to fix that somehow. And what's an easy way to fix it? Oh, okay, this tool's charging me an extra few bucks a month and help me fix that. Okay, great. Let's do that. And then so it just keeps stacking, and little pieces here and there kind of add up, and it does add up. Thankfully I've got some handouts and people have hooked me up with stuff, and it does help out if you think about it in the long run.
Yeah.
But it can be very, very expensive. And you don't have to, as a podcaster or even anything really, you do not need to spend like $10,000 on gear. You don't. You don't have to.
No. You can literally get set up for $50. If you already have a laptop, you can go and get a $30 camera, and you can get a.
Well, most laptops have cameras. That's the thing. They already have cameras.
Yeah, so you already have a camera. You can go down to Target. You can literally get a blue snowball. I started with a blue snowball for a very long time, but it worked great. It was fine. It was like a $35 microphone at the time, and then I found this mic boom on Amazon for like $20, and kind of thing. I already had my laptop because I was using it for school and whatnot at the time. So I already had all the things. I just had to plug them in and set it up. And, ever since then, it's like very minimal investment, outside of like software and whatnot, which is like the big cost now. But outside of that, it's great. So,
I try to help out, try to get people to get started for like not spending a ton of money. Cause I know as indie podcasts are starting out, it's expensive. It's expensive if you go, Rodecaster Pro and SM7B microphones and these special high studio Sony headphones and some 4K camera, like multiple 4K cameras, and you get yourself a nice little studio back here where everyone can sit down on the couch and you can have microphone shot. You know what I mean? You can do all that.
Crazy.
But even with all of that, and don't guarantee your show's gonna be successful.
No, you could have just wasted a bunch of money. You're going to be returning that stuff in 30 days because most podcasts don't last for more than 10 episodes?
If you can return it, I don't know the return rate. I honestly, God, I don't think I've ever returned anything I bought podcasting wise. I got a box over here with stuff and wires and microphones and stuff. And I think
I'm just saying, like in that scenario, like if you did go all out totally, 30 days and then you're like, wow, this is a flop, and maybe you can still get the return policy, return some of it. Some electronics are 15 days, but it depends where you bought it from.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But anyways, very, very, very last question.
Yeah, what's got?
What advice would you offer to a young dad who's age, just say 18 to 22, who's just starting out his fatherhood journey?
Okay.
What is one or two pieces of advice that you would offer to him?
I just heard this survey recently. I saw it on Instagram, which is where I get most of my hard-hitting facts and data. Really, Instagram headlines. Really, and I saw this article. I saw this article being pushed like through different platforms. So I'm thinking it's probably pretty true. It said something that like millennial dads are spending like way more time with their kids than their previous parents ever were when they were with them. And it kind of makes sense. And I think that what's happening is that because my dad was always gone. He traveled for work. He was gone a lot, and I rarely ever saw him, and stuff. And maybe even on the weekends, he was working 6 days a week, maybe Sundays. Sundays we like went to church, and then after that, it was like I don't know what we did on Sundays. Maybe after that, I don't remember. But it was very limited times. I'm saying versus today. I think today a lot of millennial dads are spending time with their kids more than their parents did, and that kind of thing. I think I just feel that very true. So I think for me, when I was growing up with the kids, I want to make sure that I was always with them all the time. And even though I am in the trucking transport space and I do work a lot of hours, but I'm always home every day. I'm always here. I'm always home every day. So that was also very important to me that I wasn't going to be gone. I think with my ex-wife when I was going out of work and I had to find a new job. And like, I thought, well, I guess I can go over the road truck driving. She says, absolutely not. I don't want you away from the kids, especially when they're so little and diaper ages and that kind of thing. Like to be gone, like, that just doesn't help out much. So I guess be around your kids as much as you possibly can and take interest in them and take care of them and, be there for them, like they need you in this time, and don't be gone. Like, don't be, like a fly by night dad, I guess, so to speak, and the tone and the term that I've heard myself be called is like the Disneyland dad or the fun dad or whatever, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, that's so common in divorce too. That's a very common phrase.
It is, but I don't think
over and over.
But what's wrong with that though? What's wrong with being because I think if as a kid growing up, you can have a mental memory of your dad being one of two ways. It can be the dad that you had fun and enjoyed being with, or you can be the dad that was gone and that you never saw. And when you did see him, he was, I don't know, drinking beers on the couch, smoking cigarettes, and just telling, "Get away from me, kid." Like which of those two dads would you have as a kid? Growing up.
And which one would you rather you have had, and which one do you want to be? Which one do you think your kids want to have memories of? It's very clear cut, obvious choice.
Yeah. So I think be there for your kids, and if you can afford, this all goes about if you can afford things. Remember the four walls, or make sure you pay for your things first. Like, but there are people that will literally like take their rent money and go on a vacation and then come back and say, "We'll figure it out when we come back. We'll figure out whatever we come back." No, don't do that.
I literally had coworkers talking about that the other day. They were like, "Well, just go with your mom to Cancun and just take the unpaid time off. Like, you'll be fine. Just figure it out when you get back." It's like, maybe not offer that advice to a coworker who just recently got married and went on a honeymoon and things like that. And, maybe let's not offer that. Let's not offer bad advice, kind of thing. So,
yeah, but I mean, you got to get your financial, everything in order first before you can do anything kind of fun stuff. But with kids too, and that kind of thing too. And I know it can be very hard with divorced family is when like one family wants to do like this big Christmas and they want to go overboard with presents and that sort of thing. And so what we've done for when it comes to like Christmas stuff really is that we let my ex-wife and her like situation over there like handle all like they get them like Xboxes and they get them all the crazy gifts. We do trips. Like we'll do some small stuff, but like the big gift we'll give them will be like a trip, like a vacation. Like every year we do a big vacation. And so we surprise them with a vacation at Christmas time. So this year, we went to New York City with the kids. The year before that, we went to Hawaii with the kids. The year before that, Disney World, Miami, Florida with the kids. The year before that, we went to...
So you were literally the Disney dad.
pretty much, pretty much. So it's not cheap to do that, I know, but at the same time, we want our kids to have great experiences when they're here with us, and her side, they want to do more of the, we're going to pay for, get them Xboxes and Nintendo Switches and whatever, that kind of gadgets. They want to do more of the gadget kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're doing more of like the
experience.
Right. That's kind of a thing we've been doing. So the presents side, it's not as much as what they spend on presents, but if you want to count the trip, but the trips, I mean, we're going to plan on doing a trip anyways with the kids. So it's like, why not bring it up as a Christmas present and kind of surprise them? So that's kind of what we do.
No, and I think kids would much rather have the experience. Like when it's all said and done, they look back, they'll be like, yeah, cool. So-and-so got me this and this and this, yada, yada, yada. But man, that trip we took, I remember that trip like it was yesterday.
Right, and I take video and pictures and all that stuff at Hawaii. But kids were like sad to leave Hawaii. They didn't want to leave Hawaii. They were, they want to go back, and they loved it. Playing the beach and the pool. I mean, I don't think went the pool.
Yeah, that's the stuff that they remember. That's the stuff that they want. Like I remember one time when I was really little, my dad came and visited with my siblings, and I remember my brother who passed away about 5 years ago now. We were at the park, and he took we were real little. He was real little. But he took his little thing out, and he's like shaking his little thing all around at the park and showing it off. And like, I still remember that. Like, I don't remember a lot of other things from my childhood, gifts, things like that. Like, yeah, the PlayStation, things like that. But, I remember that experience. And then I didn't live with my dad until I was like 15, 16. But I still remembered that trip. I still remember it to this day as just one of those really fun trips. So,
yeah, I think that, having as much time, experiencing much time with your kids as possible while you can. I know it's not possible for everybody in everybody's situation. I know it's not always possible, but if you can, be the best dad you possibly can when you're with your kids while you have them.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, well, go ahead and tell the people, Kris, where they can find you, where they can follow up with your podcast, get more of you, connect with you, all that jazzy jazz.
Well, if you want to go to the jazz station, it is at everything you want to know is at one spot. That is podtasticaudio.com. On there, I got all my recent episodes, and I got links to all my social and all that cool stuff. It's all right there at podtasticaudio.com. One-stop shop. There you go.
I love it. And that's a great resource. That'll be linked in the show notes, or it'll be over on youngdadpod.com on the resource tab, where you can pull up the show notes and the full transcript of every single episode. Youngdadpod.com is where you can find everything Young Dad Podcast, the blog, the podcast, the Instagram, the resources. We're adding more tabs all the time. I have since added, by the time you're listening to this, hopefully you've already checked it out, but I've added the About Me page, and I also added a guest appearance page, other podcasts that I've been a guest on. If you want to go and support those, hear me in different places. If you just can't get enough of me, which I know you can't because, I'm amazing. Make sure you go on to Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and do the things that you can to show your support for the podcast. Like, follow, subscribe, leave 5 stars, do all the things. Go and support the brands that support me, which you can find in the description of this episode as well by following the link tree or going over to the youngdadpod.com, youngdadpod.com, not the youngdadpod.com, and you can go over there. You can hit the sponsors page, and you'll be able to click that and support the brands that support me, and support me in return while supporting them. So it's all great. One awesome thing. So again, those 2 websites are podtasticaudio.com and also youngdadpod.com. And I will see you next time right here on the Young Dad Podcast. Enjoy this week. Enjoy our episodes of Patriarchy Principles and the biracial broadcasts that are also coming out later this week. And until next time, we'll catch you right here on the podcast. Bye-bye.